Okay. So we'll be drawing an exterior elevation, which will really translate into the methodology on how to draw an interior elevation, okay? And so I guess we'll just kind of get going on it. I'm going to be using an well, with this one I'm not going to be using an XREF, but I will show you how to use an XREF also to create, in fact I will. I'm gonna save this file, save as. I'm gonna save it on my desktop. And we'll use an external reference system to draw our elevations as well. So I'm gonna go to AutoCAD. We'll call this exterior elevation. There we go. In your book, there's a section on how to create exterior elevations, and this really is a guide to how to create interior elevations as well. Okay, so I just want to say that, so when you're asked to draw, you know, one elevation or the other, the methodology is the same, essentially. Okay, and I'm going to use XREFs to create these, right? The general idea behind an elevation, and does everybody understand when I say an elevation? Do you know what that means? Does anybody? So an exterior elevation is if you had a building, like a house, and you were standing outside in front of the house looking at the house, right? You'll see the front, you have two sides and a back, right? Which translate into a north, south, east, and west elevation. But the idea of an elevation is if you were just a little person standing out in front of your house looking at it, you know, straight on, right? Everything that you would see in that vertical plane on the front of the house would be considered an elevation, okay? An elevation is different than a floor plan in that it has vertical elements associated with it. It has heights associated with it, right? So this is a really good example of an elevation here, right? So this is the floor plan. You're all familiar with this floor plan because you used it for some assignments, right? But this is the floor plan. A floor plan is viewed as if you have cut the top off of a building and you're viewing it looking over, you know, the top of it, and it's been cut at 3 feet. And an elevation is standing out in front of that same house, looking this direction, and everything that you see in your field of vision right here is the elevation, okay? Okay, so that means that when we draw these, we have some, I guess, other types of information that we need when we draw them. We, number one, need to know what the floor plan looks like so that we can determine where the elements on this facade lie, right? Meaning, well, I know this is a garage, right? And I know that the elevation of a garage looks like this, right? So I'm going to use the floor plan, okay, to place where the elevation or where the garage happens on the elevation view, right? So I know from the floor plan that the garage happens over here. But what I don't know from the floor plan is, you know, how tall the wall is, or if there is a pitched roof, like a gable right there, or if there's a door on it, or if there's a window somewhere, right? So we need the floor plan for whatever elevation we're drawing to reference the objects on the floor plan and the elevation. And then we also need a little bit more information that will give us the heights, right? So let's see. There's another drawing in here that, hold on one second. What page is this? 118. I think it might be at the bottom here. There we go, right? So here's my floor plan. And then when I look at this elevation's already drawn, but I can see that the door, you know, the door for the garage is 8 feet tall. I can see the roof has a 1 foot overhang. I can see that I have a 2 foot exposed foundation, 3 foot wainscot of brick, 5 feet of probably stucco right there, right? A 6 inch fascia, and a 4 foot 6 inch dimension for the roof plane sloping back, right? So this gives me my vertical dimensions. Now, if you're just drafting something, right? Somebody says, hey, I have this floor plan, will you please draw this elevation for me, right? They will usually give you some information about the elevation. So all the heights, where, you know, what type of materiality there is, all that good stuff. If you are the designer on the project, then you will be determining some of these things, right? So you'll say, well, The garage door looks good at 8 foot, so I think I'm going to draw an 8-foot door. And then maybe you change your mind and think, well, maybe it needs to be 9 feet, right? So you as the designer, if you are the designer, will be determining these things on the elevation, right? Whereas if you're a drafter and you're just taking something someone else has given you and putting it on paper, they will give you the information and you will just transcribe it onto the page, essentially, okay? All right, so let's talk about means and methods on how to draw these elevations, okay? Yep, oh! You are, oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell me we weren't casting. Yep. Oh, you're locked out. Okay. There you go. Better. I was going to think I was talking for 15 minutes to people who couldn't see what I was doing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to page, I think it was 118. Oh. And here we go. Here's the way that we are going to go about drawing an elevation. So I'll tell you how we're going to do it, and then I'll show you how to do it. Okay, I'm going to open up a blank drawing. And again, I say this a lot now, but ideally it would be nice if it were your template file, right? And it would be nice if it were your template file, because you would have all your dimension styles, all of your text styles, all of your title blocks in there. You'd have all your layers created, right? All that good stuff. If you didn't happen to keep up your template, you can just open up a blank file and, generate all those things as you go, okay? But we're going to open up a blank drawing. We're going to XREF in the floor plan that we want to generate an elevation off of. Okay, so create a new file, XREF in our floor plan, and then we're going to use construction lines, or X lines, to generate and draw our elevation. Okay, so really the way we draw elevations, we XREF in our floor plan, and then we use that floor plan, we draw lines off of that floor plan to indicate where building elements are, and then below that we draw horizontal lines to indicate the heights of these building elements, and then we fill in all of the other information. Okay, so this is a pretty good graphic, I think, to show how to draw an elevation in AutoCAD. All right, so I'm going to open a new file. I have a blank, sorry, I'm going to open a blank file because I don't have a template. So I click on Start Drawing. I really should maybe generate my own templates, right? Here we go. Okay, so here's my file. I'm going to hit Save, Control S, and I'm going to save it. We'll call it, exterior elevation file. All right. First thing I'm going to do is XREF in the floor plan that I want to generate my elevation off of. And for this elevation that we're drawing, I'm going to use the floor plan that you've used for a lot of class exercises, right? For layer creation and for stretching, and that's located on the CAD Common, okay? So I'm gonna I don't know, I was thinking XR, enter, and my external reference dialog tool palette pops up here. We're going to attach a drawing. Desktop, I've saved mine in AutoCAD. There's my exterior elevation floor plan. Hit open. No path. Oop, no path. Uncheck. Hit OK. What did I just do? Something funny. Okay, check, attachment. Oh, rotation, okay. Okay, so I just XREF'd my floor plan into this drawing, right? We did this yesterday, or on Monday. Feels like yesterday. We XREF'd our floor plan into this drawing, and immediately I don't see anything, right? So I need to zoom extents, click my mouse twice quickly, and that floor plan is brought out for me to view fully, okay? If I click on that floor plan, right, it's all glued together, and it's an XREF, right? XREFs function a lot like blocks, but they're not blocks, okay? So what's nice about this is that I can bring this floor plan into my elevation drawing and I can reference it, right? This is an external reference. I can view it, I can use it to help me create geometry, and then when I'm done with it, I can detach it and it goes away and I can just have the elevation information in this drawing, okay? So XREFs are used a lot to draw elevations. Yep.
Can you show us how to make the XREF darker?
Yes, yes. So if your XREF is really not bright, like mine is really bright right here, there's two ways you can go about it. The first way is going to insert, and under reference, we have XREF fading right here, right? If you see how you slide it. The elevation or the floor plan? The floor plan is tiny. Zoom in. Oh, yours is crooked. Okay. So let's try that again. I don't think it's tiny. I think it's the right size. But I think you can run it in and outside. You just rotated it when you brought it in. Yep. All right. So there's the first way, and for whatever reason, in one of the other files I was in, when I did this, remember this was locked out, the XREF fade, right? And so the other way you can change the fading is by going to options, type options, enter, and right here under display, we have XREF display. You can change it right there as well. Okay. So XREFs are not only used for, you XREF a specific drawing into a sheet and then you do sheet specific work, but XREFs are also used to help you draw other drawings, right? The way that AutoCAD functions is that when you interact with the workflow, you have a lot of different separate type files, okay? Revit is not that way. Revit, when you are working, you have one file. It contains every drawing for the constructions that you're working on, every drawing in model format. Okay. In AutoCAD, when we're drawing, we open up a file, we create a floor plan, we close it, and we save it. We open up a brand new file, we draw an elevation, we close it, we save it, right? We open up a new file, we generate a section, we close it, and we save it. So all of the files in AutoCAD are very separate. So to kind of overcome that, we have to use XREFs to be able to bring other files into other files so that we can reference them and generate information on files that are related, I guess is maybe the best way of saying it, right? So the floor plan, the elevation, the section, they all have common information, but they're all separate files. So we XREF them all together in this big system to reference each other, to then draw each other, I guess, right? So that's what we're doing here. We are creating an exterior elevation, but we are XREFing in the floor plan to use it for reference, and then we're going to detach it once we've used it, okay? So for me, a couple of pieces of advice when you're drawing your elevation, okay? This elevation, we have a north, we have a south, we have an east and a west elevation, okay? Now this elevation up here, this is my north elevation. Even though as a little person standing right here, when you're looking at it, you're looking south, right? Which can be a little bit confusing. This is on the north side, so it's the north elevation, okay? This is the east, this is the south, and this is the west elevation, all right? This north elevation will include everything that you would see if you were standing here and looking this direction. So all of this information and this information is contained on that north elevation, okay? All right, so when you draw your elevations, you're going to have to, in a roundabout way, you're going to have to be able to view each of these sides separately in order to draw all of the different elevations, right? So if I wanted to draw this south elevation, I would draw it with this. I'm going to copy CO. I'm going to copy this over 4 times. Or once, I guess, actually. And when I want to draw this east elevation, RO, rotate, I'm going to rotate my floor plan that direction, right? So there's my east elevation. I rotate my floor plan. There's my east elevation. I want to draw my north elevation. CO, copy. I'm going to copy this over. RO, rotate. And I'm going to rotate it again to see my north elevation. Okay, so when you're drawing all 4 elevations of a specific floor plan, you rotate the floor plan to draw it. You don't mirror it. Okay, so if you take this floor plan and you think, I'm going to draw the south elevation here, and I want to draw the north elevation, so I'm just going to mirror this floor plan, your elevation will be backwards. Okay, so make sure that when you are drawing your elevations off the floor plans, you rotate them in order to get the other elevations. Okay. Okay. Right, yeah, yes. Because it would be kind of hard to draw this elevation over here sideways. So I rotate it so that I'm drawing it down here like this. Does that make sense? Okay. So me, you know, I'm gonna turn off a couple of layers actually. I'm gonna go to home and I'm gonna turn off the dimension layer because I just think it clutters things up. So anno dims, I'm gonna turn that off. Another thing that I like to do, I don't like this UCS icon showing, so I'm going to go up to View, Display, UCS icon, and turn that off. Okay. Another thing that I like to do, just to keep this straight in my mind, because it is somewhat tricky, I think, right? Looking at these. I like to draw a rectangle around the portion of the elevation that I am elevating. Okay. Just my workflow. Not everybody has to do it, right? But I don't want to forget anything, and I just like to know what I'm looking at, right? And not forget that I'm not including something out of the box. Okay? All right, so now it's time for me to draw my elevations. I'm going to show you how to draw the elevation, and then we're going to talk about layering our elevations, because layering elevations is different than layering floor plans. So we'll talk about that. The way that we are going to draw our elevations, we are going to, looking at the book here, we're going to draw what are called X lines, okay? And then these X lines are going to show us where all of the objects fall on the face of our elevation using the floor plan as reference. Then I'm going to draw some horizontal lines to indicate where other items are on the elevation. Now I'm going to come up here to draw. This right here, this command, I think the shortcut is XL, but this is an X line. And an X line generates a length of line that is infinite in length on both ends, right? So if I click and hit escape, that line goes into infinity on both ends. Okay. What's nice about that is that it won't be confused with another line type. No, he's not. You might want to look over there. No? Do you have his phone number? You can text him. What is nice about this is that this line is distinguishable from any other line in your drawing set right now, right? And that makes a big difference when you start drawing your elevations, because you're going to start having a ton of lines on your page. And so I prefer to use these X lines so that they're easily distinguishable from other geometries. Okay. All right. So X lines, very easy to use. XL, enter, click. And if I click again, I get a horizontal or vertical line. If I move my mouse, click, I get a vertical or horizontal line. If I move my mouse in an angular fashion, click, 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 I get an angled line, right? So they're really very easy to use. Okay, I can grab one of these and I can copy it. CO, enter, and I can click, 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 click. I can copy these all over the place. Okay, it makes it really easy. So the way that we're going to use these is we are going to mark. We're going to use X lines to mark all of the exterior features that we want to indicate on our elevation here. So I'm going to go up to draw or type XL. Click on X line, and I'm going to come down, come down here, click, and here's the start of the house, click, click, escape. There's my the edge of my house. Enter, click, click, escape, enter, click, click, escape, right? The other thing I can start doing now is I can start copying this object, CO. So I hit the edge of the house where the garage occurs. I'm going to come over here and hit this window next. Click, click, and hit the door. Click, click. I'm going to hit the other window. Click, click, and I'm going to hit the edge of the house. Click. So here I have very much indicated where every architectural element that I want to draw on the elevation is on the floor plan. All right. So now, and I tend to like to tidy things up as I move along, right? I don't like to have a ton of lines around because it just gets cluttered, essentially. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I know that I'm going to want to keep all these lines down here, but I don't really think I need to keep all these lines up here, so I'm going to trim. TR, enter, enter, and I'm going to trim off some of those lines. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I can even just leave a few in there if I don't like it, if I don't want to go in and delete them all. But I just delete a few off so that I know, again, visually that I'm drawing down here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I have all of my elements noted on the facade of my floor plan here, I'm going to start generating the vertical elements of my elevation. So I'm going to, for this case, I'm going to go back to my X line, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line down here, and I'm going to turn my ortho on, F8, click, escape. And you're thinking, well, how far away is that? Why is it placed there, right? There's no really rhyme or reason or specific distance away from this elevation plane on my floor plan that I have to place this first vertical line, or horizontal line, sorry. I really just place this first horizontal line far enough away from the edge of my floor plan that I could offset it a few times up, right, and get the heights I needed without intruding on this. But also, I don't want it so far away that I can't, look at this and say, oh, there's my ground plane, oh, there's my garage, go back here, go back and forth very easily to look at things, okay? So I place a horizontal ground line somewhere below where I'm going to draw the elevation. So I look here, there's my ground plane right there, okay? I'm going to skip down to the assignment because it has better elevations, but this right here really kind of shows how you draw the elements off of the floor plate. So there we go. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I've got my ground plane here. I'm going to offset that ground plane 2 feet because it's 2 feet from the ground plane to where the porch is, right? So O for offset, enter, 24 inches, which is 2 feet. Click, click. Great. Checking out our VR. Okay. All right, so I've got my 2-foot offset right there. Great. My next offset is going to be the 3-foot wainscot right there. Okay, so O for offset, enter, 3-foot, enter, click, click. Great. All right, then I have another 5 feet right there. So let me see if I can zoom in there. The very first line. Or wait. Sorry. It's successive. So for this first dimension, I offset from here up. So, and then my second one is off that second line. My third one is off that line. Yeah. Okay. So now let's see, I've got a 5-foot mark right there. So offset, 5-foot, enter, click, click. There's that. Now I have another 6 inches. Offset, enter, 6 inches, click, click. And then I've got 4'6". So offset, enter, 4'6". Oop. Offset, 4'6". Sorry, there we go. Getting confused with my Revit input. Okay. And I offset. So now I have all of my offsets, right? Except I'm gonna have to do a little bit of another offset over here, right? But I'm not too worried about that just yet. Okay. All of these data markers somewhat apply to this side of the house. So we'll kind of block out this side of the house first maybe, and then come over here to the garage. Okay. Another, you know, just having done this before, another thing I sort of notice is that this line right here where the garage starts, right? It's not really indicated on the facade. I know it's somewhere in this area because this is where the line for the garage is, right? But I think I'm gonna guess, but I'm thinking it's right here. So I have to establish where this line is because all of these lines, this line, right, that line somewhat kind of stop at that point. Okay. All right. So lots of lines already, and you're already somewhat confused as to which line is which, right? But we'll work through it, right? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start trimming some lines. So TR, enter, enter, and I'm going to trim off all these lines that go beyond the edge of the house. And I'm going to trim off all those lines that go beyond the house there. I'm going to trim off all these lines that extend beyond my ground plane because I just don't need them, right? So I just start cleaning things up. I want to draw geometry, but I want to keep this as simple as possible. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look here and say, okay, well, I'm going to, I think I maybe want to form my roof first. So I've got all of, this is the edge here. And this wall of the edge of the house goes all the way up. It meets the roof at that point. So it goes up, it meets the roof at that point. And then it bumps out a little bit. So I might have another little offset I have to do here. Bumps out a foot. The roof overhangs there. So that's going to be my first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to O offset 1 foot, enter, click, click. Okay, and this very top line, which is this line, comes out to that offset, goes down, and then we're going to fillet that edge right there, and it's going to nicely come down and form the edge of that house. Okay. Oh, my offset didn't stay for whatever reason. There we go. So this is the top of the roof. F for fillet. Click, click. There's the top of my roof. Enter. There's this area right here. Fillet, click, click, and I have my roof overhang there. So it comes down, goes over, and goes down like that. Okay. This line right here stops at the roof. So I'm going to TR, enter, enter. I'm going to trim that out. This line extends over. EX, enter, enter. Right, so there's the edge of my roof right there. The next thing I see here is I have a window right here, right? And that window is right here. That window, I don't have how tall it is, but it looks like it's the same height as the door, and I assume the door is 7 feet tall, right? And so 7 feet tall from this line, right? You're gonna have to think through all of this, right? And I think once you start drawing these by yourselves, you're like, oh, well, how tall is the door? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, I can measure it with a scale rule, right? Or I can look at things around it, right? So it's the same height as the window. Okay, well, a door is sometimes, generally, 7 feet tall. Okay, well, I have 3 foot plus 5 foot here, so this whole space is 8 foot. So if this were 7 foot, there'd be a foot above the door, and that kind of makes sense, right? So you're gonna have to kind of look at the entire picture of that elevation and just kind of figure things out from what we have here. But I have my window here, and so that means that the window's likely a foot lower than this roof line. So I'm gonna offset 1 foot off that bottom roof line there.
Wouldn't there be like a window height on the attributes for those windows? Is that another way you could look them up?
You could, yeah, you could. You're right. If it were a professional project and there were an attribute, you could explode it or double click and look at it. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yep. So I have this window now, and I'm gonna fillet. F for fillet. Click, click. Oop, enter. Click, click. Enter or escape, and there's my window. Looks pretty good, right? I don't need these lines below, so TR, enter, enter, trim. I'm gonna trim out those lines and trim out those lines. And I have my little window sitting right there. I move over, I've got my door. My door is right here. L, and this one I'm just going to draw a line from the top of the window over. You see that because my door goes right there. F for fillet, click, click, enter, click, click. I just filleted those. TR, enter, enter, trim out those lines, and I have my door. You'll probably have to watch the video again, I would assume. And we have another window over here, right? So, you know, we have to look at the height of this. We look at these and, oh, hey, look at that. They are the same height, right? So I'm going to do L for line. And I'm just going to draw a line over. F for fillet. Click, click, enter, click, click, escape. TR, enter, enter, trim, enter, enter, and I click and I trim all of those out. Look how cute it is, right? It's starting to look like a tiny little house. All right, so I'm going to save my drawing now because I don't want to lose any work. Good habit to get into, right? Make sure that you save your drawings. Okay, so we're moving over this direction. We've got these little stairs. We'll draw those in a minute. But I have my garage here now, okay? So my garage is a little more tricky because I've got to, number one, draw the garage door, but I also have this pitched gable that I have to draw, okay? And then two, I have to bring the roof out a foot like I did on this side. So let's maybe start right there. So I'm going to draw the roof overhang over here. So O for offset, enter, 1 foot, enter, click, click. This comes down and it's going to be connected to the bottom of that line right there. So EX, enter, enter, click. Okay. F for fillet, click, click, enter, click, click, enter, and I've got my little overhang there. Okay. EX, enter, enter, extend, and extend that out. Okay, so now this wall goes up and it stops right there. So I'm going to trim out what I don't need. TR, enter, enter, click, click, click. Okay, and here's my garage door. I see it up here. I see it down here. Okay, so what I have to maybe do a little trick here. I have to somehow figure out this slope. I have to somehow get this slope centered on that garage door, right? And I have to make sure this gable looks appropriate. So I'm going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center line of this garage area. Okay, so L for line. This is one of those where I have to create a little bit of geometry to generate what I need to generate. So I'm going to draw a line across the opening there. And I'm going to use an X line. And I'm going to snap to the midpoint and create an X line down the center of that space. Now, I don't need this line here, so TR, enter, enter, trim, trim. I don't need this line here, click, right? I'm trimming some of these things off. In fact, I don't need that line right there, and I don't need this line either, and that one needs to go away. Because if I look over here, all of those lines stop right here, which is this area and that area. Okay. So I have my garage door actually, which is this line and that line, and so it's 8 feet tall. So if I offset this ground line up 8 feet, I can establish where my garage door is. So O, enter, 8 foot, enter, click, click. F for fillet, enter, click, click, enter, click, click. There's my garage door. Oh, look, it's so cute. Right? And you're really, this might be funny to say, but you're drawing what you see, right? So I see doors, I see windows, I see garages. I'm drawing those things as I see them, okay? So now I need to draw my roof. And this roof is a 612 roof, which means that for every 12 inches of run, I have 6 inches of rise, okay? So to get the angle of that, I'm going to draw this little diagram over here on the side. I'm going to draw L for line. I'm going to draw a 6-inch line. 6, enter. 12, enter. And I'm going to use X line to capture that slope. So I'm going to do that by clicking on X line. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click there. and I've got that slope. Okay, so this line segment is 6 inches, this one's 12, and that will allow me to draw the slope. Now, that slope starts right there. So where this overhang comes in and hits the wall, that's where that slope starts. So I'm going to grab this, M for move, enter, click. And it's mirrored about this line right here. MI, enter, mirror, click, enter, establish my click, click. Right, so that is this right here. Okay, I can get rid of this line now. F for fillet, click, click. I'm going to trim out these pieces. TR, enter, enter. F for fillet. I'm going to fillet, click, click, enter, click, click. Yep.
I can't get my X line to draw
An angle. Okay, draw X line. Oops.
It's moving, but I just can't. I think it's
Okay, so if you click once, you click here for a second time and hit enter. Did you try that? Let's look. All right, so we've got our little roof kind of defined there. It needs to have, yep.
The other part, did you have to rotate the...
I mirrored it. Yep, I mirrored it. Let me do that again. So I had this part right. MI, enter. Select, enter. And then I mirrored it about the midpoint of this, which was in the garage. And there it is. So now I need to offset this 6 inches to get this width, right? That fascia. So O for offset, and oop, over here, not over there. O for offset, enter, 6 inches, enter, click, 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 click. And I'm going to fillet, F for fillet. And it's really starting to look like a little house. Right, trim, TR, enter, enter, click. And there you go. Okay. Now, the things that I'm looking for when I grade these, right? I'm looking for the fact that you use the floor plan to generate the elevation, right? So I'm looking to make sure that these things are dimensionally correct, right? And what that means is you use the floor plan to draw it. I want you to fill in the detail also. So what that means is I want you to fill in, and I'm going to do it quickly, but I want you to fill in all of these little detail lines, right? So you're going to come in here and you're just going to draw this however you see it, okay? But if you can change it just ever so slightly if you want to, right? But I do want to see a dimensional elevation, of course, when I grade your final, and I do want to see detail drawn in.
How many feet did you offset these after mirroring? How many feet did you offset?
Just 6 inches. Yep, 6 inches. So those will be, you know, those will be things that I'm looking for. Okay. Well, I want it to look like what's there essentially. And well, for this one, you're not going to have an assignment, but for your final, right? I want to see exterior finishes. I want to see that you're indicating glazing, and I want pen weights to read, essentially. So you want to make it pretty close, right? But if you wanted to make the doorknob square instead of round, or do something else like that, that would be fine with me. Oh no, that'll be hatch. Yes, there's a hatch video. Hopefully everybody watches the hatch video that is posted, because that will show you how to do hatch. Yes. Okay. All right, so that's how we're going to draw our exterior elevation, right? So that's great. Not too bad, really. I mean, honestly, once you have the floor plan drawn, you know, you're not measuring a whole lot. You're just referencing the floor plan, right? So it's not terrible. But now that you have your elevation drawn, how do you layer it so that it prints appropriately, right? Because when I zoom into this elevation here, well, this one's not great. This one wasn't printed with pen weights, it looks like. This one was. Okay, so when I look at this elevation, right, I do have pen weights here. So I have a very thick outline of the house. The doors and windows have medium pen weights. The hatch has a lighter pen weight associated with it, right? I didn't draw my little stairs, but your little stairs would have a pen weight associated with it. But I want my elevations to graphically read, right? So how are we going to go about that with elevations? And I say that because elevations are different than floor plans. When we draw a floor plan, we use layers to organize all of the line work into architectural elements on our floor plans, right? And that makes sense because I create a new layer, I call it door, right? And I put all the doors, all the similar architectural elements on that layer. And the system works because the way that a floor plan is generated is you take a building, you cut the top off of it at 3 feet, and so essentially, you know, all of the doors are going to pass through that 3-foot mark, and they'll be cut at the same point on each door, right? One might be a glass door, one might be a wood door, one might be a, you know, I don't know, a plastic door, but you're going to cut them all at 3 feet. So the field, or I guess the field of depth that they all are in is the same, okay? And the same thing with the windows. In general, when you cut a floor plan at 3 feet, you're going to hit all of the windows kind of at the same spot, right? Unless they're very much above the cut plane. And so the visual, the field of depth of the windows and the doors and furniture and things like that are very similar in floor plan for similar architectural elements, okay? So assigning line weights per architectural element makes sense in a floor plan, okay? For an elevation, that is not always the case, right? So in this instance, this is a bad instance. So let's look at, I'm gonna look at this other view of this floor plan. Okay, I'm gonna we want to look at here, right? So if I were to draw this elevation, and I'm gonna make a little, oh, I want to change something, but I'll just communicate it. So here in this elevation, I would draw from here to here, there'd be a door, then I draw from here to here, there'd be another door, and then there's a change in plane, okay? And in field of depth, what that means in drawings is that everything on this plane is very dark, and everything on this plane is lighter, so that it looks like it's further behind the first object, okay? So when you're standing right here, looking this direction, right? These lines, the outline of this elevation would be darker than the outline of this elevation to make it appear to the person reading the elevation that, hey, this plane, this face is in front of this plane. So this one is receding back a certain distance, okay? So in elevations, we use line weights to show visual field of depth, okay? And the reason that we have a different layering system for elevations and floor plans is that I might have a door right here, and I could also have a door right there, right? And if I assign them a pen weight according to, you know, I assign a pen weight or a layer to those two same doors, and they're grouped by architectural elements, this door will read very heavy and this door will read very heavy. And that to a person looking at an elevation says these two doors are on the same plane, right? Because they have the same pen weight. When in actuality, we read elevations according to depth as opposed to architectural element, right? So when we're drawing our elevations, we're going to layer them according to where they are in the elevation depth-wise instead of architectural elements. So they're very generic at this point, okay? Because I can have a door here and I can have a door here. So if I gave them both the same pen weight, it wouldn't read correctly to the user, right? They'd both be heavy and they'd be wrong, essentially. Okay, so the way we're going to start layering our elevations, I'm going to come up here to our layer dialog box. Let me make this larger. Where is it? Oh, there we go. We are going to create some new layers and we're going to make them generic. And they're going to be, I like to make them lowercase in my layer dialog box, but I'm going to call them a-elev- heavy. And I like to do a-elev- medium, a-elev- light, a-elev- fine, and a-elev- hatch. Okay, so heavy is going to be something like red. Medium will be, I kind of like to do 2 steps down, right? I don't really care what colors you use for these elevations as long as there's a differentiation between them. So heavy, medium, and light, fine. I like to have 2 steps in between. So if heavy is red, my medium is going to be green or maybe even blue, right? So I'll do green. Light will be this blue. And then fine is going to be maybe this color number 8. And then we're going to have a hatch color, which will be something like 250, so it'll be a shade of gray. If you had wanted to make heavy yellow, right, then medium would have been cyan, and then light would have been magenta, and then fine would have been, you know, maybe color number 9 or whatever, right? So again, I don't really care what color you make these as long as there's a step between them. Now, when I assign these to my elevation, right, things like the outline of the building are going to be heavy elements, okay? So heavy elements on this drawing would be the roof outline, this line, this line, this line, and this line, the ground plane. Things that outline the building will be on heavy. Medium items will be things like doors and windows, right? So because I don't have a plane change here, I'm going to get rid of that right there real quick. Right? These doors, these windows, they're all in the same face of this elevation. So I'm going to make them all medium. And probably this wainscot, this will be probably a medium color. Heavy, medium, okay. Light items, let me switch to my light layer, are going to be things like details on objects, right? So like the mullions here will be light or fine. Right? I'm not obviously measuring these, so we'll get them to be. Ooh, that's not good. -1 point, right? There we go. Looks good. You guys get the idea, right? So in the view of an elevation, heavy is going to be the outline, medium will be architectural elements, fine will be architectural elements, the details on architectural elements, and then fine or hatch will be creating hatch patterns, right? So it grades in. Now if I had created another, you know, portion of the elevation back here, let me just draw something back here. So let's say this extended beyond here, right? And I had you know, I had another door like back there, right? I still would use the rules of heavy, medium, and fine, but they would be thinner than these elements. So here I would start with my outlines. I would choose probably medium as my heaviest pen weight because this would be 10 feet back, right? And then this would be, you know, because those are medium, this would be fine, right? And then the architectural detail on that the door would be maybe the hatch or another thinner layer, right? And let me show you what that looks like when we actually end up printing it. Control P. Let's take a look at that. LaserJet, CTB, preview that. Right? So if I were to look at this, I would very clearly know that this facade was in front of this one. But I would know that this is the outline, right? I would know that these are the secondary kind of architectural elements. And then I would know, because these are the thinnest lines, that this was the detail on those, okay? And I would look back here and say, I know this area is, you know, however many feet behind this one, but I still know that this is the outline because that, even though it's beyond it, it is the heaviest line, right? And I know that this is the next architectural element because it's the second line, the second thinnest line. And then I have my detail line here, right? And that shows depth in a set of drawings. Now, up until this year, Revit had a really hard time with this. And this is where you would have people who had been working in industry for a really long time say, oh, we love Revit, but the graphics really suck, right? You can't get the same graphic quality of drawings in Revit that you can in AutoCAD. And I really think that was very true for a really long time. It may still be true, honestly. Revit is kind of catching up. They've started creating drawings elevations so you had a depth perception in them, but they're AutoCAD by far still can outpower them with regard to graphics, I feel like, because you have so many different line weights available to you and they're so easy to use and so easy to read and manipulate the drawings, I will say, for now, I think are more graphically beautiful or correct than in Revit. Okay. So line weight or layering is just a little bit different for elevations, right? And that is because some architectural elements won't be in the same plane. And so instead of assigning your layers according to grouping architectural elements, we are going to assign layers and as a consequence pen weights according to where all of these items fall within your visual field, okay? So in your layer dialog box now, you're going to see layers that are called, you know, A anodims, A door, A floor, A glazing, A wall. And then you're going to have a series that are A elevation, heavy, medium, fine, thin, hatch, you know, and you can make several more if you need them. If you needed one more, I say thin because I do usually like one more thinner than the fine. So heavy, medium, light, thin, fine, or fine, thin, or whatever, okay? All right. Any questions so far on this stuff? Maybe.
On the stairs.
Yeah.
The little porch in front.
Uh-huh.
That would be darker line color.
Right.
Is that right? Because it's closer to you.
Yep, and it is somewhat the outline of the building still. It's the silhouette of the stairway. So yes. Yep.
I see that one.
Yep. All right. So for your final project, you will have an exterior elevation and you'll also have an interior elevation, okay? So I just want to quickly talk about how to draw an interior elevation. Although the method is exactly the same, it is kind of nice, I think, to see how to, you know, how to go about it. So I'm going to delete this rectangle and I'm going to draw this over here. Right? So this is an interior elevation. An interior elevation is different from an exterior elevation in that you're drawing an interior space as opposed to an exterior space. So, and you won't have this assignment, but you will do it on the final, right? So for example, instead of drawing the outside of the building, right, as if you were a person standing outside a house or space or building and looking at it, an interior elevation is drawn as if you were standing inside looking at an interior feature, right? So here we're standing here, we're looking there, we're seeing a fridge, we're seeing a microwave and a stove, we're seeing a set of drawers, a countertop, and cabinets above. Okay, so let me do this. All of the same rules apply to an interior elevation that apply to an exterior elevation. So line weights are going to be determined based on graphic or depth of field, right? So things like and this is a little bit difficult because these are somewhat in the same plane, right? But if I were to look at this, these are all in the same plane, but the architectural elements like the outline of the wall and the cabinets are going to be darker, and then the appliances, which are kind of secondary to the architectural elements, will be slightly lighter, okay? And then the tile, of course, on the backsplash would be the lightest, okay? All right. Sorry, just got distracted here. Did you 3D print that, Jacob?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a toothbrush
I
holder.
was wondering if that's what it was.
Yeah, I also printed another one. This is the one I wanted, but they found the other one too, so.
That's really great. It's a toothbrush holder?
Yeah,
Oh, that's-
I moved in with, we have a family that stays with us and they leave their toothbrushes everywhere, so it's like, I gotta do something.
Oh my gosh. That's pretty great.
Yeah,
That's pretty great.
I'm gonna use a hair dryer to get the little hairs to melt off.
That's pretty funny. Looks good, right?
Yeah.
Fun little piece of art. All right. So let's look at our interior elevation here and how we're going to draw this. One little trick with XREFs that I haven't talked about yet is called an X clip. And that will allow you to sort of filter out different areas of your XREF that you don't want to view, right? So if I'm looking at this interior elevation, I feel like it's very confusing to have to look through all of this right here in the floor plan to then draw an elevation below it, right? In my mind, I have to be very clear on how I'm drawing things and what I'm drawing with regard to elevation. So any trick that I can kind of work to help me, I'm gonna do. So we're gonna X clip this XREF and essentially filter out all of this stuff around it. So I'm gonna type XC, enter, and it says select your object, which will be your XREF. This doesn't work on, it will work on blocks, I think, but it won't work on anything else. So you have to select your XREF. When you're done selecting, you hit enter. And you want a new boundary, so we're gonna hit enter again. We want a rectangular boundary, so we're gonna hit enter again. And then I'm just going to draw a rectangle, click, click around the area I want to view. And the XREF is still there. Do you see? It's still there, but I'm only viewing a little portion of it now, okay? To get rid of that clip, I can type XC, enter, select the object again, enter, and I can choose delete, and it deletes that. Okay, so XC, enter, select, enter, 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 and then I click, click, and there we go. Okay, and so now I feel like it's just a lot easier to be able to draw that, right? I'm going to come up here to my X line. Okay, I'm going to come up here to my X line, and now I'm just going to start drawing lines to help me generate my elevation, right? So I want to grab the wall, click, click. Ooh, I need to change my layer to something that will help me. There we go. Okay, XL, enter, click, click, enter, click, click, enter. And now if I wanted to, I can CO, copy, and I can start hitting these items on my elevation, right? I'm gonna pretend that's a stove right there. because I want to show you where you can find some stove blocks. Okay, then I would do the same thing I did for the other elevation. I would draw a line or use X line, and then I would offset it the vertical height, right? So this one happens to be 8 feet tall. So O, enter. Oh, not there. O, enter. 8 foot, enter. Click, click. Okay, great. So over here, and this book will, you know, sometimes you may not know what things look like if they're cut or, you know, and again, it sounds really weird to say it, but I remember learning AutoCAD and thinking, do I just draw whatever it looks like? And yes, you draw what it looks like, right? If it looks like a stove, draw it so that it looks like a stove, right? So here, I've got my countertop, right? So my countertop goes, you know, 2 foot 10.5 plus 1.5, so 3 feet to the top. Offset, enter, 3 foot, enter, click, click. Okay, TR, enter, enter. I'm going to trim this off. And TR, enter, enter. I'm going to start trimming some of this excess stuff off. Okay, so I've got my countertop here. Let's say we've got a little piece of some drawers here, right? So that look like this. O, enter, 1.5 inches because my countertop is 1.5 inches. Click, click. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna hit save here real quick. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is just draw my countertop over to the edge of where I'm gonna say this is the sink, but I'm gonna put a gas range in there. So pretend that's a stove, right? L for line, and I draw my countertop over. TR, enter, enter, and I have my area for my little drawers. So I could draw my drawers in here. I'm not being very accurate, obviously, but they're gonna somewhat look like this. Okay, and again, you're going to choose your layers according to what's appropriate, right? So the outline's going to be the thickest. The second one is going, and again, these are in plane, right? The outline's going to be the thickest. Architectural elements are going to be second, right? Medium. And then appliances and other details are going to be thin or fine. And then you have the hatch, right? I'm going to leave a gap here. And then we've got a refrigerator and a gas range. Okay. All right. So let's bring those in. Okay. You know what, guys? I'm gonna take a quick break real quick. Let me just take 5 minutes. I'm gonna go and get a new drink. Be right back before I lose my voice.
Like, we can extend an invitation again, so that if they want to, come up, speak for that.
Well, and they're gonna talk to the guys, and they're gonna look at some things, and so I think they've got some points that maybe Mark and David.
You guys get up to so you and also put them on, you guys take them with them.
Well, before you're on, I was worried about the other stuff, the bathrooms might grow, and also to, finish California and check the occupancy and stuff. I would make sure to get everything else done before we go back.
I'm just saying, that's not a job.
Yes, it is, it's supposed to be.
I have to go to the next restaurant, check it out.
Oh, yeah, no, they are total glass from the ceiling down, and there needs to be a window across it, all glass. So, yes, great, yes, that's why I said the three spaces. But for now, it's just glass. I see that whole wall corner to the glass.
Yeah.
And then,
And I knew visit last
anywhere
week.
needs privacy frosted. That way it's a curtain wall of glass.
And I think you can go in and change the, I think there's an opaque glass option for the materials.
So if it's a curtain wall, it starts slicing places, you can put it in different glass.
And grab it and change the colors and stuff.
So overall, we got some good feedback, and overall, it was working pretty well.
Don't get caught in your own cables.
So, I think we're good.
Version of dying on the toilet.
Wrapped up in the yard. Okay, nicely done, gang, nicely done.
Make some changes.
Beautifully.
Right.
So AJ and them sent out an invitation to the IT guys, that they could come up and have plans that they can look at for the redesign and VR. So all we need is to copy. We did this, we changed this. So Jack White goes, I don't know how much privacy I need with this. So AJ went, in some class, took this link model into Ryan's site, so he could work there, update the link, and go like that, and he goes, yeah, I like that better. So it's like, you can use it, and it worked, and you can make changes, and you can show what's going on, and you look back on it, and most of what they saw, were like, there's some changes and some concerns that you can see. For real, it's the starting point. Oh, absolutely. And even the president was saying, you know, you guys are doing buildings, can you like choose what you work on there? And I said, just tell Malin what you really want as a priority. Oh, really? He said, yes. This will be the housing last year. He said IT building this year. She goes, aha. So yeah, she's on her board.
That's great. That's good. That's really good. Exciting.
It's sold a lot today.
Yeah.
Like Brian said, this is a political move down. I just think it's no, they were both very, very impressed. And Richard felt good. Students are doing stuff. details was shown. She was so great. Can you come to my house? What if you have? She checked out everything.
Did they change that then? Did the interior
I don't know. The apartment house is huge. So he checked it. Right, but Parker's mom has the community center. Right, but I don't know where Kate said versus Parker says that, right? We might have a more complete Parker up. Nope, we won't do that without, chicken sandwich.
I am. Lots of VR going on today. Kevin's really excited. How many of you have done the VR? You guys have. Maybe you have. You should check it out if you haven't. It's really cool. Maybe we'll have to take a day one of these next couple weeks and just go in there.
Anyone do it?
Yeah, anybody can do it. Yeah, it's really fun.
You just ask James.
Just ask Jameson. Yep. All right. We'll just take, I've only got about 10 more minutes left, so we'll just kind of finish up and then I'll let you guys work. Do you want me to release that computer?
Yes, please.
Yes? Okay. Is that you? Okay. The wires are crossed, so. Oh. No?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, you're okay. You're okay. Yep. Although you might want to see, well, watch the video because you'll want to see this. So these blocks right here, so here's, I'm pretty much done with this, right? So I'm going to probably offset this 1'6", right? Offset 1 foot 6 inches, right? And this kind of comes over, and any way possible, you're going to want to draw some lines, right? And then, you know, you'll want to draw your cabinets. Shift right click, M2P, click, click, and you'll draw your cabinet. Shift right click, M2P, click, click, right? So we'll draw our cabinets. And we have a microwave and a gas range and a fridge, right? And you don't want to draw those because they're complicated, takes up time. So those blocks are all located in the AD Center, the Architectural Design Center. So AD Center, enter. Right, remember this area, and I will, let's see, there's the file structure. So you don't want to get, I said this before, it sounds really crazy, but if you click on anything in here, it will get you out of this and you'll never be able to find it again. So stay out of here, right? That's why I turned it off. But let's see, which one is it? I think it's the kitchen's right here. So if I click and I hold and I drag it over and I let go, click, enter, enter, enter. I'm going to close that out a little bit, right? I'm going to explode this one time, X, enter. There's my microwave, there's my stove, there is my cooktop, there's my refrigerator and elevation view, right? So I can copy these over. Oop. Copy, click. I can drag this over here. Maybe that's where my fridge goes, right there. I've got my gas range, so CO, copy. Where's my gas range? Right there, right? So I grab that and bring it over here. M for move. Oop, maybe. There we go. And then we have the microwave, of course, CO. And I bring that over here as well, right? And I don't have to draw those, okay? So use the Design Center to find some of these blocks, and I honestly think most of them are there. And for your final project that you'll be drawing, you can use these blocks as well. And I know that you'll be looking for a sink, you'll be looking for a cooktop, you know, a lot of this stuff, whatever, is that a drink dispenser? Anyway, so you'll want to use the AD Center to find those blocks, okay? All right.
That microwave that you just pasted in there,
Yeah.
can you stretch that across to fill that void?
So what you would,
Same thing with the Stove too?
What you'd probably want to do is explode this, right? S for stretch. So essentially, you could say, well, I'm going to edit the block. But if you edit the block, it changes every instance. And you may want to maintain the original copy. So, you know, I would stretch this out to whatever you needed it to be and reblock it. And then you'll be able to use it.
Okay.
Yep, same thing with the stove. Okay, yep. All right, any final questions? Okay, so you have a few assignments you're likely finishing up, so get those finished up, and then on Monday I'll assign the final project, and you've got about 3 weeks before that's due, and we'll just work on that. So